In our conversation today in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, we visit with Bengals linebacker coach Al Golden. Al Golden has got a ton of experience. Defensive coordinator at Virginia, head coach at Temple, head coach at Miami, Florida. Now he's the linebacker coach with the Cincinnati Bengals. He's coached tight ends. He played tight end for Joe Paterno. When you listen to what Al Golden has to say, you understand that he has got unbelievable football IQ. Coaches trust players that are smart. Players trust coaches that are smart. They know that they're going to have the best game plan available to them. They believe in it. They trust the system. They trust the technique. They trust the coach. Al Golden is making an impact on the young linebackers with the Cincinnati Bengals. During our outstanding conversation with Bengals linebacker coach Al Golden and him telling us how well these young linebackers are playing, and a lot of it is due to how he's coaching them up and making it simple for them, it brought me back to an incident my rookie year at training camp against Bengals linebacker Jim LeClair. Had a fellow lineman that I played with at Syracuse by the name of Stan Walters, the SS Walters, Stanley Steamer, we called him. And we were doing a little inside running drill, live, no tackling, but live with the linemen and the defensive linemen and linebackers. So I was in a double team situation and rub off to the linebacker. I was playing guard. So we double the nose guard, and I go to rub off on Jim LeClair, and I was peeking a little bit, and man, he hit me, put a forearm bone on my forehead and shortened me. I started the play at 6'4". I finished it at 6'3". I'm not kidding you, man. He just shortened my neck. And I'm like, wow. I had the big yellow flash. I was like, ooh, a little bit unstable, a little bit unsteady. Had to, I definitely got buzzed. It was definitely a hit that you say would be an episode as you talk about concussion protocol stuff. And he labeled me, man. And Jim LeClair now, he played at North Dakota State. He was a heavyweight wrestling champion in college. And Victor, the wrestling bear that traveled all over the United States, Jim LeClair, we were there. He pinned Victor, the wrestling bear. How about that rhyme? Jim LeClair put him on his back. And he said the worst thing was Victor had a big muzzle on, but it didn't prevent his tongue from coming out. And they declawed him and defanged him and everything, but he had that muzzle on anyway. And he said that tongue was the stinkiest thing he's ever smelled in his life. And he was like licking them all over his face or whatever. But as an aside from that, LeClair was unbelievably physical, big coat hanger, broad shoulders. He could bring it. And man, when I got stoned like that, I was like, wow, that's my first aha moment. Welcome to the NFL. It was getting hit by Jim LeClair like that in one of my first practices, and then in pass rush, trying to put my hand on Mike Reed, quickest human being I've ever seen in my life. When I put my hands on him, I felt like I hit Nolan Ryan's fastball. But Jimmy LeClair and my good friend Stan Walters looks at me and he goes, Rook, young guy, don't be peeking. Don't be peeking, man. When you come off that double team, come off like you mean it. You start peeking? I said, yeah, I've already learned that. Thanks for the tip after the fact. But I'm telling you, it was no joke when you were in live interior run game drills, 7-on-7 interior line drills in the National Football League. Serious stuff. We're in our luxurious First Star Logistics studios, as always, and it's time for In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, and joined in the trenches by linebacker coach for the Cincinnati Bengals, Al Golden. And Coach, welcome, sir.
Yeah, great to be here, Dave. How you doing?
I'm doing well. We're going to do a little Al Golden background to get started, everybody can find out what they need to know about Al Golden. You
Cue
went
the
there.
Music.
Cue the music. Here we go. This is your life, Al Golden. All right. So you went to high school, Red Bank Catholic.
That's
and
right.
You're in 2004, you're inducted into the Jersey Shore Hall of Fame. So you must have had a pretty darn good career in high school, Coach.
Yeah. So I'm actually pretty excited. This year I go into the Temple University Hall of Fame.
Awesome.
as a coach, and I went to my high school Hall of Fame and the Jersey Shore Football Hall of Fame. So yeah, I was pretty good. I went to Penn State and played for Coach Paterno and was a captain there in '91. So yeah, it was fun.
I remember watching in 1990, Penn State beats #1 Notre Dame. You guys are down 21-7, and the tying touchdown was a reception by Al Golden that tied the game up, and you guys go on to beat #1 Notre Dame 24-21. I remember watching that game. That was a hell of a game.
Yeah, so we were playing really good defense in the second half. So when we scored, we didn't know if coach was going to go for two or not, because we had a lot of momentum at that time. Like, it really swung our way. And so I was trying to get everybody settled down after the touchdown, thinking we were going to go for two. But Coach Paterno was like, no, we're playing great defense. So we ended up kicking off, holding them, getting the ball back, and kicking a field goal as time expired, basically to win the game. So it was a great moment and a great memory.
Well, and then the following year, I guess, like you say, you're captain, and you guys go to the Fiesta Bowl. You beat Tennessee in the Fiesta Bowl. You finished, I think, #3 in the country that year, didn't you?
Yeah, we had a really good team with a really, really hard schedule. So we lost. Back then, we were an independent, and we had not yet gone to the Big Ten. So we played a really, really difficult out of conference schedule. We lost a couple, and then I think we won 10 or 11 in a row that year. And we had a really, really good club. The teams that won the championship, I think it was Miami and Washington that year, if I recall, they tied. So we were third by virtue of those two guys tying, but we had a good club.
Yeah, I went to Syracuse and played for Ben Schwartzwalder, and Ben Schwartzwalder and Joe Paterno had a rivalry. Now it started with Rip Engel with Ben at Penn State, but boy, he wanted to beat Joe so badly. Joe had they had Franco Harris, Lydell Mitchell, all these stars, Jack
Lenny
Hand.
Moore.
Yeah, exactly. Lenny Moore. They had all these great players, and it's like, man, we did beat him one year though, upset him one year, and Ben was. He was like a kid at Christmas. I mean, he couldn't believe it. But yeah, so let's talk about you go to Penn State and you're playing for Joe Paterno, and you're how big an influence was Joe Paterno on your life and your decision to coach, really?
Yeah, I think he had a great. Obviously, if you don't have a great experience, it's hard for guys to overcome that and then go into the coaching realm. So for me, even though I wasn't the best player on the team, for me, Joe's approach to the total person is what I took from it. Just developing. Back then, it was called the grand experiment, that you could win with, in the community, you can win in the classroom. You can win on the field of competition. So I think from that standpoint, that's the biggest thing that I took from, and really that became the foundation for me as a coach. Just trying to develop the total person. And if you do that, generally, the performance on the field takes care of itself.
During your coaching career, you were known for wearing slacks, a dress shirt, and a tie. Was that a Joe Paterno influence there?
It really wasn't. Where it started was when we first got to Temple, every day felt like training camp. We were so far from, there was I want to be correct here. There was 120 teams in Division I football my first year. We were 120.
Wow.
So it got, like literally there was times, those first 18, 24 months where my hair was falling out and I was wearing just a sweatsuit or a sweatshirt on game day. And it just felt like training camp. And I'll never forget, before the fourth season, my mom was the one who kind of got after my butt a little bit and was like, the game day is different. You have to look different. You have to feel different. And so I think that's the year that I went with the tie, and the rest is history. So we won nine games in a row. That was the most in 112 years of Temple football at that time. And
right.
First bowl game in 30 years, third bowl game in over a century. So that's where it all started.
So let's review a little bit some of the coaches that have touched your life along the way as your road to being a coach yourself. You're a graduate assistant at Virginia under George Welsh, a legendary coach. You're at Boston College with Tom O'Brien, had a really good run. And then you get hired as a defensive coordinator, the youngest defensive coordinator in college football by Al Grow at Virginia. I mean, all these guys, it's like a who's who, of coaches.
Yeah, Dave, I was very fortunate. So Joe Paterno, Hall of Fame, George Welsh, Hall of Fame.
Right.
Tom OBrien, I think, will be in the Hall of Fame. Tom OBrien won 100 games and I think was 10-1 in his bowl games.
Right.
And that's a pretty strong criteria for Tom. And he did it at Boston College, which was a credit to him. I mean, that's really hard to do, to win 10 bowl games in a row or 9 in a row, whatever he did. So my relationship with Coach Grow started when I was a graduate assistant at the University of Virginia, and Mike Grow was our quarterback. And we beat Florida State that year. I think it was 95. We beat Florida State in a Thursday night game. And so I went away and was coaching at Boston College. But Al Grow, Romeo Cornell, Coach Belichick, Coach Parcells, all those guys, 97, 8, 9 with the Jets. I'd be out there in Farmingdale, Long Island, giving up my summer vacation, trying to learn football. And so that's where the whole thing started, with that tree, if you will. And just learning a lot of football. And then a couple of years later, Coach Grow said, I couldn't hire you last time because you didn't want to come to the NFL. I'm going back to college. Will you come? So I said, yeah, I'll be there. So the next day I drove down to Charlottesville and was his defensive coordinator. And Coach Grow was an encyclopedia of football now. That guy, he is so sharp and so smart, and what a great mentor. He had a lot of guys come through there that he improved improved them professionally, but really helped them become, all around great coaches and ultimately head coaches.
So you're there for 5 years, then you get the opportunity at Temple that you spoke of, and you're the second youngest head coach in all of college football to Pat Fitzgerald. What was it like when you went to Temple at such a young age, trying to turn around a program like you talked about that had bottomed out, and you did? I mean, you turned that program around. You had great success at Temple. What did it take?
Yeah, I just it was kind of a leap of faith. I felt like I was ready, number one, but number two, I just felt like, I think the number, Dave, to be correct, there's almost 40% of the nation's population, that lives between, basically between Hartford and Richmond and west of Pittsburgh. And then again, I don't know if that number is still that way today, but back then it was so densely populated. And I just kept saying to myself, I mean, we need about 18 guys a year, 15, right. 18 guys a year, and from that, we just kind of changed the paradigm. And people, often ask me, what the biggest question I get when I do speaking engagements is, how did you turn around Temple? How did that happen? Well, I think the biggest thing was we took educational, how do you say it? Like secondary educational philosophies and reverse them. So in secondary education, you use sport confidence or different extracurricular activities to build confidence that will carry over into academics. Well, we just did the reverse. We just said, hey, we're going to win as many things as we're going to be great in the community. We're going to compete in the classroom. We're going to compete in the weight room. We're going to compete in the off-season pro. We're going to do all these things. And if we do all these things, ultimately, that will become our culture, and we'll be able to get this thing turned. And that's what happened. So that was a great experience for me personally, and for my family. We love, being in that area, as both our families were, from that area.
And then Miami, Florida, which has had great tradition, but had fallen on some hard times. You went down there and as a head coach, and it's 5 years at Temple and 5 years at Miami, and brought that program back. Which was harder? Which was a harder turnaround to accomplish, Coach?
Yeah, I think the second one was harder. Right? The Miami thing was harder because I was blindsided. We were there 8 months, and all of a sudden there was a huge investigation, and we had to give up bowl games and probation. So anybody that will take over a program will tell you the biggest thing is momentum, and we just could not create any momentum with every year ending in, your first 2 years ending in giving up a bowl game, or you're going to lose scholarships, or you can't do certain things in recruiting. So that was a challenge. That was unfortunate. great, we met great people. We have great relationships with so many people, but it was just an unfortunate circumstance for us. And when that was done, Dave, I just said, you know what? I want to go in the NFL. I was a head coach for 10 years. So I was a head coach. I was a defensive coordinator. I was a head coach for 10 years, but I was also a special teams coordinator when I was a head coach. So I had done all of those things. So I said, I wanted to try the NFL. And as it happened, when I was released from Miami, Jim Caldwell reached out. He's the first guy to reach out. Jim was a coach on the staff when I was a player at Penn State, and just a class act. And he reached out and he wanted me to come right away. I'll never forget. They had lost to Green Bay. I think it was a Hail Mary, and they had to make some change. You probably remember the game, right?
I do.
I think it was a Monday night game.
Yep.
And they had to make some changes on the staff, and they did. Well, guess what? I'm at home, and he calls me. He said, "Let's go."
Wow.
And I'm like, Jim, I need to regroup, And so he, after the holidays, he called me again, and I went, and I love Jim Caldwell, just a amazing person, amazing head coach. You ask anybody that was ever in those meetings with him, when he's up in front of the team, just really just an amazing coach. And I hope he gets another shot at, because his record, his class, the way he treats the play was just tremendous.
Yeah, I hear a lot of comparisons to Tony Dungy, and I know they're very close.
That's right.
But I mean, the respect that players have for those two guys is just, there's not one player that they were associated with that has a negative thing to say about it. Amazing.
So then Dave, Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia kept me on, and that was a great experience, because Matt's an awesome defensive mind. And so that was such a great experience. And I'm so grateful, to Matt and the GM, Bob Quinn, and the Ford family, because I was able to stay there, which is hard to do when coaches transition. So when that ended, I got a call here, and I couldn't be happier to be a part of this. And the biggest thing that I always heard about Cincinnati was the community and the schools, an unbelievable place to raise kids. And my kids could not be happier with the schools they've chosen, and the friends they're making in the community. So really, really grateful to Zach and Mr. Brown to be here.
Boy, Coach, you hit it right on the head as far as Cincinnati is concerned. My wife and I are both from a little northeast of Boston. And my wife's like, well, we're going back home every off season,
Yeah.
It's just, so we have kids, and now my wife could work for the Chamber of Commerce of Cincinnati. It's the greatest place ever. This is the best place in the world to raise kids. I mean, it's just an unbelievable community. There's no doubt about it. The fact that you played tight end, you've coached tight ends, you've coached special teams, you've coached linebackers, you've coached both sides of the football, you've been a head coach, all of these experiences, how has that helped you, understand everything there is to understand in terms of coaching football?
Yeah, I think, again, I think the educators out there would say it's pattern recognition, right? So I could see it quickly on the sideline on game day, but more importantly, I can make it really concise for the linebackers. You got all this stuff. First of all, it's the most amazing game, especially when you're on defense, because you got 22 variables on every play, right? So you're out there and you got all these things going on, but what do I really need to pay in tune to? And I think that's where our group as a linebacker position is making the most gains right now, Dave, to be honest with you. It's finite focus. It's where do I need to be? And it's stimulus response. It's not just, I hope I get to the play because everybody's moving that way. It's, the guard is doing this, the center's doing this, the back is doing this, and this is where I have to go right now. So I just hope that I can continue to just provide them that little piece of, hey, if the quarterback's doing this, there's a good chance that this is the route that you're getting, or whatever the case may be. And but right now the guys have been responding great, and we gotta keep going, stay healthy, keep working, and they've been so much fun to work with right now.
Tell you, Coach, they are. They're seeing it so fast, and they're going downhill. I mean, you have them playing aggressive football. They're getting after it. They're going downhill, and we've been fortunate enough to have Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt, in press conferences after practice, and they both talked about the simplification. So your message is hitting home. I mean, these guys are responding to it, and Von Bell mentioned that too when he was talking to the media. He said, we're just simplifying things, man. That's what it's all about. So I'll tell you, you guys, you're all teachers, and I remember the great Paul Brown telling me one time, he goes, you know what a football coach is? A football coach is a teacher. That's what a football coach is. And you guys are doing an unbelievable job of teaching these young guys. Is it invigorating to be around guys? And I can speak from, particularly in the NFL, year 1 to year 2, it's when the light goes on. It's like year 1, you think but you don't know what you don't know. Then year 2, you kind of start to figure out what you don't know. And now it's just not what you're supposed to do. It's why you're supposed to do it. You see the bigger picture and all that. Are your guys kind of getting in tune with that?
I think so. I think, Coach Lou has done a great job of simplifying it. But what Lou does really well is he uses everybody around him. Duff is, again, an experienced guy that knows how to solve problems and will work different things with the ends or outside backers. Hobby came in and brought some new ideas from Miami. Rob and Jax are doing a great job in the back end. Jordan and Lou up front. So it's just been really, really good. And I think the biggest difference right now for us on defense is just the collective mentality, the interconnectedness. And you mentioned, talking about those guys. Well, I always say to those guys, like it's symbiosis. When we see a Sam Hubbard or a Von Bell or Jesse Bates do something, not just get an interception, but maybe pick up a loose ball and run and play with energy. Man, I tell them, like, you guys wonder why I get up in the morning and why I go or why I'm doing an extra cut up for you or it's because of that. So the greatest part about our room right now, Davis, I don't do that. I get challenged. Jermaine Pratt, he watching film now. So I got to watch more film than Jermaine and Logan and Marcus and Akeem, all those guys. So right now they're Jordan Evans, really another really, really smart guys playing well right now. So those guys are doing a great job of feeding off each other and making each other better every day.
Coach, give us maybe a sentence, a thumbnail sketch, scouting report on each of the linebackers you were just talking about. Give us their strengths or give us what you like about them, I guess.
Yeah, so Jermaine, number one, no one prepares better than Jermaine Pratt, and he's doing that consistently now, number one. Number two, he's a big man for a middle linebacker. He's between 45 and 50.
Right.
The thing that he's doing best right now is he's really starting to play low. He's starting to get his pads down and play with pad level and strength. So he's using his power, which is great. Logan is really gifted athletically. He's starting to call it, Dave, as you've probably seen in practice.
Right.
He's starting to, he's not, I wouldn't say he's a naturally vocal guy, but he can lead in his way. Like I told him, don't lead like I lead. You lead like you lead.
Yep. And
he's starting to do that, and he's starting to get comfortable making calls up front. So that's been great. Jordan Evans has just been, he's having a great camp. And again, maybe the most intelligent guy in the room, just really, really smart, and can do so many things for us. He makes a play yesterday on short yardage, a really, really physical play. And, 2 plays later, he's the one linebacker on the field in dime, so he's a very versatile player. And then Akeem and Marcus, both having good camps right now. Like you said, just triggering fast, getting off the spot. Akeem is, very, very fast and has versatility on third down. Marcus is a physical player. And then the two, the two guys that, Keandre Jones, who we got, I think, mid-year last year, and then Joe Bocci we got during OTAs. Those two guys are really, really doing a nice job. So it is a competitive unit. And I just roll them through, Dave. There's no set lineup right now at linebacker. I'm just rolling them through. Someday I'll say to Marcus, okay, you go with the ones today. Jordan, you go with the ones. So, yesterday I gave Joe and Keandre a chance to go with the 2. So I want them all to feel like they're surrounded by, good players and run the show and have a fair shot at competing for this thing.
Yeah, Bocci made a play for you. If he doesn't make the play, it's maybe a 7-yard touchdown run. He makes a play. He's where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there. And I've been impressed with Bailey. Bailey last year he was playing, through the injury a little bit.
That's right.
Hey, I'm telling you, he's a playmaker. Every practice there's Bailey again. There's Bailey again.
Yeah, he's a smart kid. He's confident. We call him Water Boy sometimes. He probably doesn't like it, but he'll come down and hit you now. So I think the O-line knows that, they better have their head on a swivel when he's around, because he'll come down and be a physical player. But it's a good group, and everybody's pushing each other right now. And I feel like we're getting better every day, which is a part of this grind. The ability to continuously improve, and that's what I'm seeing from our group.
At the linebacker position, just like in the offensive line, when you're talking in the trenches, I call what you guys went through, the first 4 or 5 practices, functional football conditioning. There's no question about it. But the true evaluation starts when the pads come on, because, it's like, oh, his feet look pretty good. Look, that's pretty good hand placement. You think they might be able to, make a hit and separate and make a play, but you don't know until they throw pads on. Is the evaluation process really cranked up now that you're in full pads?
Yeah, I think that's a fair evaluation. I think one of the things I think Zach does really well is he puts us in those situations, as a team, to see what, yesterday was short yardage and goal line, or we'll do red zone, we'll do, play action periods and things of that nature. So the guys are getting to see it all, but there is no doubt that transition from helmets to pads is a big day for us as coaches, because you don't want to see a drop off. And I was just so fired up that, for 2 days in a row, I didn't see the drop off. I saw guys challenging. I saw the same fits. I saw the same vigor in practice. So that's a big deal. And it's also a credit to our D line, because, if we're not in the right gaps up front, or there's not trust between the 3 technique and the linebacker, or the D end and the linebacker, then we can't play fast. And right now we're playing fast. And that has a lot to do with how the defensive line is playing right now, which is great.
Yeah, Zach, like you talked about the situational football yesterday, there was a competition, a scoring system. Yeah, defense gets points if they stop the offense on 3rd down or 4th down. If the turnover, they get big points. So there's incentive there, and the offense obviously gets 7 for a touchdown, 3 for a field goal, kind of thing. And defense won that portion of it, that competitive part of practice, and the offense had to do the up downs. And so there's always like a carrot, something to dangle out there. But defensively now, you guys have stacked multiple practices together. It hasn't been a one-hit wonder. It's been defensively getting it done for quite a few practices, and seems like the players are really taking pride in that.
At First Star Logistics, we're a very strict company that really puts the pressure on our employees. Breaks? What are those?
That's what I'm talking about, Icky. Get the body right, then the mind's right.
Gotta get that body right.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Become a star with a chance to earn the highest commission percentages in the industry as a freight broker agent. Check out firststarlogistics.com.
I think you're right. I think we're playing with energy. I don't think we're getting, like, if we make a stop, I don't think that's really the end goal. Like, we want to make multiple stops, and we want to stack multiple days. And so that's how I feel when I'm out there. I feel like the guys, there's a sense of, okay, just keep doing it, or there's an expectation that the standard has changed. So, and again, a lot of that is to a credit to upstairs and the acquisitions in the offseason. In terms of especially the back end, just the communication has been awesome. And Mike and those guys on the back end that came in, I think they just bolstered what already was awesome with Jesse and Vaughn and those guys. So. The communication has been better. There's less errors, and ultimately, that's going to allow you to play faster and see the ball better. And it also allows us to coach the little things, right? How do we, it's one thing to say, hey, go take the ball away, but how do I take the ball away? Is there a different, if his elbow's out, do I see it differently than if his elbow's in? Or if the ball's low, is that a different technique? I'm not going to give our secrets away, Dave, but there's some techniques involved there. And again, if we can keep focusing on that finite, then I think we can continue to improve as a group.
Yeah, I've seen that, turnover drill. I mean, you guys work at it, punching the ball out and doing all the things, stripping it, doing all the things you need to do. And special teams period is focused on that for a portion of special teams period too. And ball security and takeaways are the biggest determining factor in most football games. So the fact that you guys are working on it every single day, means something, obviously.
Yeah, again, anybody can drill it, but when there's a standard that is widely accepted on the team, especially on the defense, in our case, then that's when, magic can happen. That's when empowerment happens, and that's when guys, take it on their own to take it to the next level. So hopefully we'll continue to do that and just continue to improve. But I don't see us really getting too high or too low. And if they make a big play on offense, we just move on to the next play right now. And we got a lot of veterans. We're playing with a lot of poise, and we just got to keep stacking them, Dave. We got a long way to go with September 12th. Is that when we start? I heard you on the PA system on Saturday saying, I was like, whoa, when? That's like, can you imagine? That's like 5 weeks from now, right? So
yeah, there's still like 38 practices.
Yeah. So we got to stack a lot before there, and we just got to continue to just keep making improvements.
Coach, like we talked about, you turned around 2 major programs. So do you see the Bengals tracking in a good direction for a potential turnaround? There's been down for, nobody wants to be down more than a year, but in the National Football League, things cycle. And the Bengals have been in a little bit of a down cycle. They've had their ups, they've had their downs, just like every franchise. You see Zach doing things the way that you saw successful in turnarounds you were part of. And Zach's a guy that reaches out to a lot of resources. Has he had conversations with you about what you did at Temple in Miami?
Well, I think Zach is awesome because he's an open door coach, and he'll share. He'll listen to anybody that shares an idea that's going to improve, the culture or the direction that we're going. But I have no doubt about what direction we're going. You could feel it in the locker room. You could feel it in the meeting rooms. You could feel it on the field. So the energy level is good. Again, confidence comes from demonstrated performance. So we just got to continue to do that time after time. But I feel like we have a lot of the right people in the building right now, and everybody's going in the same direction, which is awesome.
A lot of the new guys, we've had a chance to catch up with a few of them from a media standpoint, and every one of them communicates very well. I mean, they're all intelligent, not just football IQ, overall IQ. And a bunch of them were captains, captains of their college programs and captains at their NFL teams. And so it seems like the kind of person that you brought in, to be part of this growth and development is pretty outstanding.
Yeah. At the end of the day, right. What is culture, right? The collective capacity of us to create value, right? So how do you do that? You do that through people. Everybody's got the screen that I'm looking at. Everybody's got the practice equipment, the drills and the TVs and everything. Everybody's got all the state of the art stuff, but at the end of the day, it's going to come down to our people. And I think we got great people in the building right now, and everybody's just bringing energy and thoughts and ideas to move that way right now. And I think you're going to miss it if you're not on board that train. I really do. I think that train is going to leave the station if you're not part of that culture. And I think guys can feel like this is the way to do things. This is the way we want to go. And again, it's exciting to be around. I've been around a few of them. I've been blessed because I always felt like I was ready to take the Temple job because, I had gone to Boston College with Tom O'Brien, and I don't know if you remember there, but we inherited that gambling scandal.
Yep.
And so that was hard. Same kind of scenario. Like you're starting from scratch again. Like you had to get rid of, a bunch of guys that were embroiled in that, and you had to kind of start over. So that really helped me. And then I was on the ground floor when Coach Grow took over for Coach Walsh at Virginia. And as you know, that's when you're there at the start, you really can learn a lot. So I was there, and then I had the opportunity to do it myself at Temple with a bunch of great coaches and support. And so I learned a lot, and I really believe that just from my experience, the direction we're going is the right direction. I'm excited about it.
Coach, how much when you're in the off season preparing for the upcoming season, opening day opponent is huge. Obviously, that's the first thing. That's the biggest. That's a big. But division wise, how much do you factor in what type of teams are in your division when you're assembling a football team from a personnel standpoint and from an installation of what you're going to run offensively and defensively standpoint when you go through an off season?
Yeah, I think we got 3 very, different offenses to stop in our division, right? So you got Pittsburgh that everything runs through the quarterback, and it's a quarterback, basically tooling it at the line of scrimmage to get them in the best play. You got Cleveland with their play action boot game and their running backs that are doing a great job. And then you got Lamar with the option attack. So you got three very different things. So at the end of the day, you got to get the best players you can get. You got to be highly intelligent, and you got to be able to change from week to week. And I'll take it a step further, Dave. We play the AFC West and the NFC North, right? So then you as you start to look at what are our calls, and do we have enough things to stop these two-back runs that Minnesota is running, or San Fran's going to run, or the Raiders are going to run, whatever the case may be. And then you're saying, okay, who's the spread attacks? Well, you got Kansas City over here, and again, you just that's the way you got to kind of compile it, and you assess, you attach percentages to that. So you kind of get an idea of what you need in each category, and that becomes your menu. And then from your menu, that's when you practice it. You practice it now, when you're playing all those empty teams and you're getting ready for those games, you're saying, okay, this is our menu. This is what we got to get good at, and you don't want to have too much of something and not enough of another, because you get caught on that on game day. You don't really have a lot of answers in your toolbox.
And today's NFL, position versatility is paramount, isn't it? I mean, you get Henderson and Hubbard that can drop. They can obviously come off the edge, but they can drop. So it's like, teams, like you say, do things so differently, and they attack you so differently. It's if you can combat it without having to substitute like crazy, and then they have the last move in the chess game kind of thing. So it's like, man, if you have position versatility, that is a huge factor, isn't it, trying to stop these offenses?
It is. 3 down defensive linemen and 4 down linebackers are gold in this league. I mean, they really are. And here's the biggest reason. What's to say that, Baltimore is not going to be an empty on 2nd and 6? Well, guess what? Sometimes you can't get your whole dime package out there. You can't get all your pass rushers out there. So the more versatility that you have, it's easier for Lou to make the right call in that situation. And I think we've improved there. A guy like Logan Wilson, for instance, is a guy that can play all downs. He's big enough to stop the run on early downs. He's athletic enough and fast enough to stay out there on 3rd down. So again, I think the more versatility you have, the more weapons you'll have to stop, those game day attacks that you get.
So when you're evaluating players, Coach, that you're going to sign in free agency or draft, obviously you got to watch tape to see if they can play. First and foremost, they got to be able to play. But after that, what are the next 2 or 3 things you're looking for in terms of, is this guy a fit for my organization and my room?
Yes, for me, it's always been smarter, tougher, more disciplined, better conditioned. At the end of the day, like, are they smart? When I interview guys for the combine or getting ready for the draft, what's their football IQ? Can they riff with me on certain ideas relative to the game? Like on this run or this concept, or hey, if we're playing quarters coverage and this guy does this, what are you going to do? And if they can really display that they've mastered their defense, not our defense, but their defense, that's a smarter player, right? So smarter, tougher, again, guys that are tough. What does toughness mean? It's not just I'm going to run into you, Dave, but toughness is, am I going to finish the play? Is it important for me to finish the play? Is it important for me to do the harder, right over the easier wrong, every day? That's a tough player. So again, smarter, tougher, more disciplined. Are they a disciplined player? Do they do what the defense is asking, or am I asking them questions saying, hey, tell me about this on Sunday morning when you were in the film room with your defensive coordinator? Did he like what you were doing here, or did he say to you, hey, what the heck are you doing here? I have that conversation with him. And then you go to the weight room and say, are they gym rats? Are they weight room guys? Are they in the film room? Do they really believe in being well conditioned and understand the importance of playing a 17-game schedule over 6 months? because of any of those 4 elements. Again, those are the top 4 elements that I look for. If any of those 4 elements are missing, it's hard to overcome. It really is in this day and age of the NFL.
So when you back to your college days, and as a student athlete, I'm sure you were absolutely, the academics were very important to you. You get your undergraduate degree at Penn State in law, and then you get a master's degree in sports psychology from Virginia, 2 pretty good institutions. If you hadn't gotten into coaching, would you be Perry Mason? Would you be a lawyer?
So actually, my 5th year, because I graduated in 3.5 years, but my 5th season, I started a master's in political science. So I thought I was going to go that route, in terms of public service and things of that nature. And then when I was with the Patriots in 92 and a little bit in 93, and then I was out in San Diego for like a month and they cut me. And when I was on the plane back, that's when I decided I wanted to coach. So I didn't finish my master's in political science. And I said, you know what, I want to go and coach. So I ended up going to University of Virginia. And again, another unbelievable mentor, Dr. Bob Rotella, was, the leader of the sports psychology department at that time. If you can imagine, he was leaving on weekends to go to the Masters or to go to the British Open to work with golfers. Right. And he was coming back and then sharing experiences with me. So it was the most amazing, between George Welsh, Tom O'Brien, all those guys on that staff. And then I had Dr. Rotella from an academic standpoint during that 3 years, which was, he was an amazing mentor. So I've been blessed, and hopefully I'm giving it back to our players now.
Yeah, that's just an incredible experience. Well, you mentioned the Patriots. Coach McPherson was the head coach then, right? When you were with the Patriots?
Yeah. So so Coach Mack was awesome, and I had a chance to stick around in that 92 season with him, and then Coach Parcells came in, and that's actually where I first met that family of coaches, was Coach Parcells, and he was great because he actually released me. And again, I was not a great player. I worked hard. I had all the intangibles to hang around a little bit, but I was not talented. But he said to me, he gave me unbelievable advice. He said, there's a lot of players that can't do anything else, or that this is all they want to do. He goes, you can do other things. And if I can ever help you. And I sent him a note like a year later and said, I've thought about it, and I want to get into coaching. And he was always a confidant for me and a mentor for me. And he's the one who introduced me to that whole lineage of coaches and in the way to do things, most particularly on defense, the defensive formula. So that part of it, that was a great, all those experiences I hope I share with my players on a daily basis.
Yeah, he and Al Grow, they were attached to the hip. I mean, those two made some beautiful music. Yeah, there's no question about it. Wasn't Dante Scarnecchia the special teams coach of the Patriots?
So he was my tight end coach. Dante,
he was your tight end coach. Okay.
Yeah, and then he went on to coach the O-line, but that guy was an incredible football coach.
All coach, no doubt.
That guy was Dante. Again, just a wonderful human being and a great coach, and I hope he's enjoying retirement.
Yeah, man, that's another guy that every single lineman that played for Dante Scarnecchia has nothing but highest praise possible for him as a coach and a human being. Just like we have for you, Coach. We appreciate you carving. Yeah, we certainly do appreciate you carving time, because this is the players' day off. We're talking on a day off for the players, but coaches, there's no such thing as a day off.
That's another story. I'll see you in February. Hey, Dave, thanks. We'll see you out there tomorrow, okay?
You're the best, Coach. Thanks for your time.
Okay. Thanks. See you.
Hi, Dave Lapham here. Have you heard about In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, presented by First Star Logistics? Catch new episodes from the world of sports and broadcasting. Search for In the Trenches with Dave Lapham on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.